from a fallout shelter somewhere under Seattle, Washington, it's the show you've been waiting for. Get ready to join your hosts, John and Kenric, as they talk comics, movies, and more. Now here's Spoiler Country!
Welcome back to Spoiler Country.
I'm John Horsley. Kenric Regan's not here. He had to go do some stuff, so you got to hear me to the intro. That's okay. You know, I do my thing. So today's episode, or this afternoon's episode, or this middle of the night's episode, it all depends on where you're listening to it throughout the day. So go ahead and pick whichever one of those best fits your time of day listening. That's fine. You know, whichever one you want. We talk about Norwescon. And by we, I mean not me, because I'm actually not on the episode except for hearing this intro. So Kenric's able to sit down with Michael from Norwescon and talk all about what they do, what it is, what it means, and kind of what you get when you go to that convention, which is really cool. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to join the conversation. At the last minute, I had a work thing come up where I couldn't reschedule it again if I had to not be available. So unfortunately, you're only going to hear my voice now, but you will hear Kenric talk to Michael from Norwescon. Now, so since I know you all care, I'll kind of update you on my house a little bit. You know, Kaylee and I, my wife, and I, we got the house, we moved in, we were unpacking, we're going through stuff. I don't quite have my my recording area set up. I'm still kind of recording in my closet. I will have a recording area set up soon. What that means for you Spoiler Country fans out there, or listeners out there, is that we're going to be bringing back Drinks and Comics here very soon. Hopefully by the end of April, we will have new episodes of Drinks and Comics up on our YouTube channel for you all to check out, which will be super awesome. Now, this episode, we're going to start something new. Not only do we have Kenric talking with Micah from Norwescon, but after that, we have a very special new feature of the show called Casey's Webcomic Roundup. Now, I'm calling it his Roundup because I try to call it the corner. He jokes saying Roundup, and you know, Casey, we're going to stick with Roundup, so there you go. On this first installment of Casey's Webcomic Roundup, this is where Casey Allen, who, as you may know, is a friend of the show, longtime listener of the show, longtime friend of ours. He's also the editor over on the EYNES anthology with me. He's the guy I brought in to help me see that book through to fruition. He ended up wanting to do some interviews with people and asked me if it'd be okay if he could do interviews with webcomic people, and then we put him on the show, and I said, absolutely, man. So, but first, let's get to the meat of the episode. Norwescon with Kenric and Michael. Take it away, boys.
All right, I'm here with Michael Hanscom. Did I say that right?
Hanscom, yeah.
Hanscom. And he is one of the, I want to say, developers, showrunners of Norwescon.
Well, one of the volunteers.
Even better.
This year I'm on the executive team, kind of similar to a board of directors. But so the people who sit at the head of the table.
Yeah,
when
that's awesome.
We're at our planning meetings. But I've personally been involved with the con for about 10 years. This is my first year on the up on the exec board. So
I got to admit, I feel kind of weird because I do Emerald City Comic Con. I do Jet City. I go to San Diego every year. Mm-hmm. Johnny goes to Rose City every year. We do all these different cons. I have never had a chance to go to your con. And so as a newbie, tell me what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely. We're basically where a lot of the cons you just mentioned are fairly and in some cases extremely large size. Mainly media-focused cons. Started with, Comic-Cons have obviously grown far beyond just comic books, and they're into big media and movie stars and TV stars and all of that. Norwescon is a much we're a generalist con, but we're primarily focused on the literary side of things. So started as a kind of a classic fan-run science fiction convention. So our big focus is on the book side of things. Yeah. So as I said, we are a generalist con, so we touch on, a whole slew of other side of things. We've got lots of gaming, we've got costuming, we've got panels that go on over all sorts of things within the science fiction fantasy umbrella. But basically the love of books, the love of reading is very much at the heart of it, at the heart of who we are.
That's awesome. So you guys do, so is it mostly sci-fi and fantasy, or is it strictly just sci-fi, or is it?
Sci-fi and fantasy both.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of an author named Richard Kadrey?
Not off the top of my head, no.
He does a series of books called Sandman Slim. He's been on our show. I absolutely love him. That's like my favorite series of books right now. But he's been on the New York Times bestseller list. I'm only saying because maybe you guys could reach out, and because he comes up and does stuff here. He's out of San Francisco.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually have. I have, since I don't know his name off the top of my head. I don't know what sort of background he has or awards or anything like that. We actually have a certain set of rules that we go by for who we invite as our primary guest of honor, because each year we have a writer guest of honor, an artist guest of honor, and special guest of honor, and each of those has certain criteria that we look for. Generally, with I'm stumbling a little bit here because I'm trying to do this off the top of my head.
Yeah, take your time. Take your time.
Yeah, with the writer guests of honor, Hugo Award winners or other big science fiction literary award winners. With artist guests of honor, I can't remember off the top of my head the similar award within the science fiction fantasy artist genre. So those are our primary guests of honor, but we also do count for, we have special guests of honor that we've brought in every so often. We have various other slots we can put people in. And of course, we have a lot of artists, authors, all sorts of people who come in and volunteer to attend as pros or panelists, who, the people fleshing out, sitting at the tables at the front of the rooms during all the panels. So there are all sorts of possibilities for authors, artists, anybody to get involved, even if they might not fit our criteria for the writer guest of honor spot on the webpage.
That's awesome. That sounds like a lot of fun, though. So have you had people like Dan Simmons come in and stuff like that?
Off the top of my head, I don't know about Dan Simmons, although I'd love to see him come through. He's
got some of my favorite sci-fi books of all time, The Hyperion.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's I think he may have come through one year that I missed, because I remember there was an author that I really, really love.
Yeah.
I missed one year. Yes, he was there for Norwescon 31 in 2008.
Oh, that's awesome.
But we've had all sorts of people. Sometimes they're names that are a little bit more familiar in the writing community than the wider community.
Right.
In recent years, this year, our writer guest of honor is Ken Liu, who is an author in his own right and has also, if I'm remembering correctly, has also translated books for the Chinese author whose name I cannot think of off the top of my head. Recent Hugo Award winner. But so we have Ken Liu.
From the Dandelion Dynasty, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, that's cool.
We had Dan Simmons a few years ago, as I mentioned. Recently, we've had Ian MacDonald, Tanya Huff. Just a couple of years ago in Norwescon 38, we actually had George R. R. Martin, which was a lot of fun.
Wow.
Yes, right. Game of Thrones, well, it still is huge, but it was huge at the time, and it still is. Getting him to come in was a real treat.
That is cool. That is way cool. So how big is this con? Like when you go, how many people do you think it will be there?
Every year I get together with about 3,000 of my closest friends.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a perfect size because you feel more intimate with everything that's going on.
Absolutely. One of the things, as much as I see about things like Emerald City Comic Con and San Diego Comic Con, and I like seeing all the news that comes out of them, I see the pictures of just these oceans of people. It's just huge. It looks overwhelming. One of the things I love about this, one of the things I've stayed with it, and it's kind of become, my second family, is that it is a lot more intimate. So basically, we take over one hotel, and everybody's there. The whole thing is going on. It's a much more friendly, familiar atmosphere, I think.
Yeah.
One of the things, the comparisons I like to draw is that a lot of times at the larger Comic Cons, because you do have these like big media stars, you have to pay $60 up for autographs and stand in line.
Yeah, it gets kind of crazy.
Yes, we have autograph rooms. The price you have to pay for getting an autograph is being willing to stand in line for a little while. And we try and keep the lines reasonable. There have been a lot of times when our guests of honor always are very much a part of the convention. They're on a lot of different panels. And there will be times, there was one year we had our artist guest of honor at that point. It was John Jude Palancar. I just passed him in the hall. We got started talking. I was taking photographs at the time. He asked me about my camera. And, we just spent 10 or 15, 20 minutes just chatting.
Yeah.
And then he goes on to whatever panel he's going off to. I went off to whatever I was going off to. And it's a very different feel than giant convention center.
Yeah, you get lost in the crowd, and those big conventions are money-making machines more than they are anything else.
Absolutely.
They say they're for the fans, but really at the end of the day, they're really about making money because they wouldn't charge what they charge because they make so much. I always feel like when I'm going to San Diego Comic-Con, I'm paying for the privilege to go buy stuff.
That sounds right. Admittedly, I went to Emerald City Comic Con a number of years ago, and I haven't been back since just because it's not really my thing. But I do have a lot of friends who are big fans of those and those kinds of cons and that. And I certainly don't want to speak ill of them because they're also part of the larger convention family. Different ways of doing it, but it is a very different model because we are fan run. We have always been fan run. We are entirely nonprofit.
That's awesome.
Anything we take in goes right back into everything that we do. And we try and give people absolutely, 4 days worth of a lot of value for our membership cost.
That's awesome. When there's still tickets available, correct?
Actually, we just closed pre-registration, so we're close enough now. The con kicks off in just 2 weeks from today that we're recording.
Nice.
Yes, so we just closed pre-registration. At this point, memberships will be available at the door.
Oh, perfect. So so 2 weeks is April 18th is the start of the con?
Yep, we're 18th to 21st this year.
And where can they go if they want to go and check this con out? Check out Norwescon.
Well, for a little, for little information ahead of time, our website is norwescon.org, so norwescon.org. The convention itself happens down in SeaTac at the DoubleTree by Hilton Seattle Airport, just across from the airport.
So Michael, tell me, what is something you're super excited for at the con this year?
One of my favorite things,
for personally.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite things, we've been fortunate for a number of years now to host the Philip K. Dick Awards.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of the larger awards in the science fiction community, given every year to the books that are eligible are books that are published for the first time in paperback that year. So books that come out in hardback first and then paperback are not eligible. These are paperback first publications because that's how so much of Philip K. Dick's work came out.
Yeah.
And so every year the nominees are announced in around January. I make sure to go out, pick up all the nominees, read through them all so that by the time we get to the convention, I'm able to attend the awards ceremony. We get a number of authors, as many as we can each year. This year, I think we have either 2 or 3 of the nominated authors actually there and reading a selection from their own work.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so we get a little bit of a taste of each of the books, and then we give the award. And it's become one of my favorite parts, just both because it really is tying into the literary heart of the convention, of our convention itself, and it's exposing me to a lot of authors and of books that I might not have come across otherwise.
Yeah. What kind of books do you like?
I've always been primarily more science fiction than fantasy. I enjoy fantasy from time to time, but I'm definitely much more of a science fiction person. And I tend towards the harder science fiction most of the time. Authors like, Neil Stephenson is one of my favorites. Werner Vinge is really good. There's so many that are really good out there.
That's cool.
Personally, I'm going through a project right now where I'm working my way through the entirety of every Hugo Award-winning novel.
Oh my God!
So I just started at the beginning.
How many novels is that?
73 at the moment. It'll be 74 before too long. The finalists for this year's Hugos were just announced, and so
How long do you think it's going to take you to do that?
Oh, a couple years easily.
Oh man! So I come from a long line of readers. My mother specifically is a huge reader, and she pushed reading on us, not in a bad way. You know what I mean? Her love of reading made you want to read, and she read voraciously. It was not uncommon for her to pick up a book in the morning, and by the time we're getting ready for bed, she's already done starting on a new book.
Yeah.
That was common. And then, of course, she read to me all the way until I was probably 10, which sounds, I don't know, sometimes people are like, oh, she's still reading to you when you're 10. I'm like, well, yeah, but we read stuff like, the Lord of the Rings. We read The Hobbit. We read, we didn't read any Philip K. Dick. Obviously, that's a little beyond my time for, for that age group. But but a lot of, just the classic stuff, but that pushed me to want to read. And so now I don't even know how many books I've read in my life because I always have to have something that I'm reading. Yeah. Because I love it. And it turned into more. And now I have dreams of someday maybe writing my own thing, even though, my syntax, my grammar is not the best. But that's the nice thing about writing is, especially when writing fiction, you can write the way you want. Your grammar, it's important, but it's not the be all end all.
Yeah, absolutely. And it becomes your individual voice. And the more you read, the better your writing gets. The more you practice writing, the better your writing gets. Yeah. And of course, as I, kind of threw out there a little flippantly, but also a little serious, that is what editors are for. They can help with things like that. And that actually is another big part of Norwescon because we are a literary focused con. A lot of what we focus on is not just the reading of and talking about the books and the franchises and everything that we love, but also focusing very much on how we can benefit authors. And so we have a lot of our panels are on the writing process, the editing process, the publishing process. So if someone's just getting into writing, or if they've got their first book and they're trying to figure out, okay, how do I go about publishing? Do I need to find an agent? Do I want to try self-publishing? Do I want to do something else? We're going to have we're going to have panels. We're going to have people who have been in those situations, both on the self-publishing side and on the larger, corporate publishing side, who are going to be able to be there and give panels and talk about their experiences. So that's a large part of we try and encourage people, not just on the enjoying the consuming end, but also the creation. Find those stories you want to tell, and find ways to get them out there.
Oh, that's exciting, man. Would you say that the Norwescon is panel driven, or is there like a big center where people are like vendors have their wares that they can peruse and do all that kind of stuff as well?
I'd say primarily panel driven, but we also do have a large dealer's room so there's a lot of shopping opportunities available. Yeah. I'd say we primarily panel driven. That's a large part of the draw, is all the paneling and everything that goes on. But we do have the dealer's room. We have a very large and well-recognized art show. Nice. Showing art and selling art, and literally from artists, both local and around the world. Since my position on the exec team is secretary, which means I handle a lot of the mailing that comes in, and I have a box sitting here that I'll be bringing in that got shipped to us from an artist in Italy. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, art coming, science fiction, fantasy art coming from all over the place. And then costuming is a huge part. We have a really big masquerade on Saturday night where local costumers are coming, getting up on stage and showing off what they've put together. Just absolutely incredible outfits. Photography of the costumes and everything that we see is actually what got me into Norwescon about 10 years ago. And I did that on my own for a bit. And then they said, well, you like taking photos. We don't have a photographer. Want to help out? I said, absolutely. And I've been there ever since.
That is great. So there's a part of me that's scared because I love to go collecting. Mm-hmm. And I kind of want to start collecting some original first editions. Mm-hmm. Like I wanted to get Man in the High Castle, but it was it's like $300.
That doesn't surprise me at all. Yeah,
to find a good one. And then, but of course, I started with like, I want to see how much Alice in Wonderland is, or Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And it was just like, I'm not ever going to make that. I'm never going to have that kind of money to I think I'll drop a first edition on Alice in Wonderland. You're talking like $20,000 or something. Exactly. It's crazy. But my question leading up to that is that something that is there? Like if you're a book collector and you want to go and find a certain book, do you guys have those type of vendors as well?
We do have book vendors in the dealer's room. This year, I don't know how many, off the top of my head, I don't know exactly who's there. But we do have book vendors in. I have
Probably a great
honestly
way to network.
no idea how a search for first editions or anything like that would go. I don't know if they focus quite on that side, that segment of the market, but there will be books for sale, absolutely.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You start thinking about things, and because I collect comic books, and then on top of that, it's like, well, what's after comic books? Original books, and then, but you start going and you start pricing stuff out, but I would imagine going to a con like this would be an amazing place to network, to find things like that you want.
Absolutely. And we also have, and actually that just reminds me that one of the possibilities, now I never know what's going to be there until it comes up, but one of the things we do on Sunday is art and charity auction, where there is artwork and there are a lot of pieces, a lot of items that have been donated by vendors, by attendees, by people in the community, put up for auction, and then the money raised from that goes a little bit to us just for the convention itself, but also to the various charities and organizations that we support. So that auction happens on Sunday, and I've seen some really fascinating stuff
that's cool.
Available there. Last year, and if I can't, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe some of that is also happening this year. But last year we had a family donate just years worth of artwork that they had collected to us specifically for the charity auction. So if I remember correctly, some of it was done last year and some of it was held over to have this year. Could be wrong on that, but whether or not that exact piece is true, always a lot of really neat stuff there. And, if someone throws a first edition of something or an autographed edition of something in there, that'd be a good opportunity.
Yeah, that'd be a great opportunity. That's awesome. Hey, so what's the cost at the door for like a 1 day or a 4 day or a 2 day?
Best deal is always going to be the full weekend if you think you might want to do it, and that's going to be $85, and that's for 4 days, Thursday through Sunday.
Good price.
If you want to do a single day, Thursday is $50, Friday or Saturday is $60, and Sunday is $40.
Awesome. Okay, and give us the website one more time.
Norwescon, so NORWESCON.org. .org.
I got you.
The .org only comes in there once.
I do that all the time. It's a .org.com.net.
Yep. And then
but
this
it's just norwescon.org.
Yes, norwescon.org. And our full list of guests of honor, our writer guest of honor is Mary Robinette Cole. Artist guest of honor is Tran Nguyen. We have a special guest of honor, Nancy Pearl, a librarian you may have heard of. Her name got pretty big.
Nice.
Sorry, my webpage is... we have science guest of honor, Dan Cobalt, a genetics researcher, also a fantasy sci-fi author. Honor professional Neil Clark, editor and publisher of Clark's World magazine, is going to be there and assisting with some of the writers' workshops. And then our spotlight publisher is Subterranean Press.
Subterranean Press. I've heard of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. So, well, there you guys go. Michael Hanscom, thank you so much for joining us today. Norwescon, April 18th at the Doubletree in SeaTac.
Yep.
85 at the door for the weekend, and that will be your best buy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. If you think you might want to go 2 days, then it's a better deal just to go ahead and get the full weekend membership.
Yeah. Well, you guys get down there and check out Norwescon. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. I'll be there. So we'll have to meet up.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Thanks so much for letting me babble at you for a little bit.
Thank you. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
All right, Kenric, man, thanks so much for doing that. I'm sorry I couldn't make it. Sorry, Michael and everybody at Norwescon that couldn't make it. Sounds amazing. Sounds awesome. And now let's check out Casey talking with Tiffany MacLeod from Crystal Visions.
Today, I am going to talk to Tiffany MacLeod, who is the artist and one of the creators on the comic Crystal Visions. And Tiffany, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am currently living in California. I am a self-taught artist. I've been drawing since like early 2000s in my like late teens. I gravitated more to watercolor, so my style is very watercolor and it's very emotional based. At least that's what I've been told. I
Can
just
see that.
gravitate to what I like. um, a little bit about my webcomic. It was created by me years ago. I had this idea, and I'm not sure, don't quite remember where the idea came from, but I think I was probably binge watching a lot of Studio Ghibli movies with a lot of strong female characters. And the idea just came up for Crystal Visions. I worked on it a lot for a number of years by myself. I didn't really get anywhere. I then recently, in the past 2 years, I joined a creator group of all female creators. At the time, it was called the Ladybugs. Since then, it's been disbanded. The group closed. But in that group, I was able to meet Brianna Shackelford, and I decided at that point that I was like, okay, I'm an artist, and I've been struggling with writing for like the past 8 years. I need help. So I just reached out to her and said, you know what? I connected with her because her ideas based on like storytelling and, the direction that we want, this type of stories that we wanted to tell kind of matched. So I asked her, I showed her what my idea was, and I asked her, would you like to help write this for me? Because I'm bad at dialogue. And like, when we started talking and I started explaining my idea, she started picking through my idea. Like, she wrecked it.
It's awesome though to find somebody to do that with.
Yeah, it is. And I'm like, I was so glad that somebody finally like pointed out these things, because I had struggled with not only the visual concept, but the story concept and even the character design. Because originally the story was more of like a medieval fantasy. And when I was drawing the concepts and the character, things just didn't match up. And I guess after like 1 or 2 like sessions with her where we were like discussing where we wanted the story to go, I realized, wait a minute, this should be steampunk.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So within like a good year, like I progressed further than I had within like 8 years going at it alone. And then later on, yeah, it is. Collaboration does wonders for work. And later on, I needed help with lettering because I had become overwhelmed with like I had pretty much stretched myself too thin between work and like the extra projects that I had. So I asked another person that is within the group if she could help me out with the lettering. So she's been helping me with lettering the comics so far. Her name is her online handle is Milk is Ooh. Milk is Ooh. Milk is Ooh. I have yet to say it out loud. Like sometimes you just read a person's handle and it's like, okay, that's who they are forever. And then you have to like say what the name is out loud. You're like, I don't know how to read or pronounce English anymore.
I had somebody refer to me on a podcast one time as via my handle on the Discord and on Twitter as robot seat guitar, and I was like, that I've hated it for the longest because I thought it was funny at first, and then you have it for long enough and you get associated with it. You're like, man, I should have just used my actual name. So
it's like, I'm trying to remember. Is it robots? It's robot eats or guitars?
Yeah, guitar. Yeah, robots.
Yeah, guitar.
Guitar. Yeah.
Yeah, robots eat guitar. That's how I read it, because at first it looks like robots. I read robot seat. And I was like, no, that doesn't sound right.
It was from a story I wrote a long time ago that was really dumb about like a future where music is outlawed and robots roam around eating
guitars.
bits of eating guitars. Yes.
Whoa!
So
awesome.
so a band of Ravagers piece together guitars from whatever they can find and take down the robots with the power of music.
Awesome.
Oh,
wow, that
it was so dumb.
Dude, sometimes the most dumbest comics are the most funnest. I can't remember what the name of the comic was because I was just paging through it at a comic book store, and it was just pages of this cowboy samurai just killing zombies, and the art was just so.
Some things you can't go wrong with.
I know. So it's like it depends on how you approach it. And it was the most violent comic I've ever read. Well, not violent in a sense, but like there was just page after page, just a samurai just chopping up zombies. But I kept reading, and that was the plot.
So give me. So you told us about Crystal Visions, about how it came about. It's a steampunk and the. Go a little bit more in depth, or
it's pretty much about a young woman. Her name is Crystal, who is in this world where they have two different types of magic. So one is alchemy, which is a science, and another is magehood, which is a spirituality. So on her journey to go to a funeral to mourn her dead brother, she discovers that there's something else involved within his death. So it's mainly about her own journey to understand what divides magic and science in that world. And along the way, she gets entangled within like conspiracy and some secrets and giant monsters.
Which you can't go wrong with giant monsters.
Yeah, giant monsters. Yeah. So within that world, I included giant monsters because I wanted to draw giant monsters.
Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. I mean, you can.
Yeah.
There doesn't have to be any reason for giant monsters. They just are, and that's awesome.
Yeah, so. they just are, and we figure out a way to incorporate it into the mythos of the world. But if I go into detail with what the mythos is, I think I might be giving away some story.
Oh yeah, don't give it away.
So I'll just leave it at that.
And so, you've always been into comics, I take it. Like how did you get into comics? Like, what was the thing that made you go like, I really want to do that?
Well, I had always read comics growing up. I believe I first started with Archie comics. They were funny and cute.
And
but they
now,
weren't really,
oh my God,
yeah,
they're going
really
nuts now.
Yeah. Yeah, they're nuts now. They're the type of story that I probably was looking for in an Archie comic, but I was told to read more in school. So they told me to read Archie comics, and I was like, dear God, this is like...
They probably said, oh, you're a girl. Here's an Archie comic.
Yeah, here's an Archie comic. And then slowly, somehow, through like sheer randomness, I picked up Akira. And I was like, this is what comics should be. And Akira led me to Sandman, which led me to some other stories. And along the way, like, because I got really into like manga comics, I got into anime, and I'd watched Sailor Moon and it was all fun. I was more like a little Disney kid. Like my favorite stories was Gargoyles, which is very character based.
That was off the chain.
But I got into comics, because of those type of stories. Akira, some Sandman comics. I liked the way the Sandman comics tried different artists and different art styles. That really impressed me.
he really used them like a toolbox. He would go, oh, for this story, I'm going to put this artist here because their strength is this. And then I'm going to, the next story is going to be this person because they're good at doing this thing. And that always impressed me. Yeah.
Yes. And I was like, okay. So, I was like, comics could look different than Archie comics. And somehow, like, I got interested in trying to draw them myself. I started learning by myself, mainly through online tutorials. A lot of them were very anime based. And it was like, oh, okay. So I wanted to learn. And later on, I decided, okay, I'm just going to copy, animation. So I copied a lot of Bruce Timm art. I copied a lot of Hayao Miyazaki. And for a little while, I kind of dropped off drawing. I didn't really think that I had, I guess, the inner, what do you call it, talent, like the natural talent to like draw, because everyone kept on saying, oh, you have to be born with it. And so I just kept reading comics, and I ran across a superhero comic, and it was by Alex Ross. It was Kingdom Come. It was Kingdom Come, and he painted everything. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't care if I'm ever going to become half as good. If I could get as half as good as this guy, I'm going to at least try, because that was the point, the pinnacle point where I was like, you know what? I want to at least try at this because it impressed me so much. And I decided to take like a couple of painting classes in college. The medium that we used was watercolor. We experimented with other things, charcoal, acrylics, but I kept with watercolors because it was just very easy. Kind of at the time flowed with it made my bad art look good. That's pretty much what I thought. At the time, it made my bad art look good. So I just kept up with it. And the moment I decided to draw my comic was when I had like a couple other ideas before, but I one day pretty much just sat down, okay, what was the story out of all the stories that I've seen that I have, get to read? And I was like, I haven't been able to like read that many steampunk comics because it's a very like niche genre. And then include, mysticism and magic in it. That's even rarer. So I was like, okay, I'm going to make an attempt at a story that I would like to read. So that's how I got into comics. And
that's awesome.
After struggling with it for like a couple of years, I believe, let me take a step back. I forgot to include the comic jam. So my style that you see right now was pretty much refined during the first two pages that I did at the comic jam. I had never before attempted like some watercolor drawings, digital watercolor drawings on the side on my own that I never shared with anybody, but to attempt to do a page comic, that was done at the Comic Jam. That's when I made my first attempt, and that's when I started doing it for the webcomic.
When I first saw your art with the watercolors, I was just like, this is amazing. Nobody's doing this. And that's one thing I really love about our little tiny group is that we have so many different styles of writing and of art. And now we're we've got people that do letters and they're adding more to it. You were talking about your letters for Crystal Visions and having somebody take over that task. And oh my God, is it not like night and day having somebody that can do that? And you don't get how important it is until you actually see the difference between somebody whose job is to letter, and then you just putting it on the page yourself.
Yeah, because I've lettered for myself before, and it's like, okay, all right, I did the drawing, and I'm like, I'm so tired. Let me just throw the letters on the page, and then it just makes the good art look bad. And I was like, no. It's very, in all honesty, like I had to like reevaluate how I read comics. Okay, when I read comics, I read them. I look at the art, but I also read them. It matters how the letters look. Yeah, so it's important to like get a letterer that knows what they're doing.
And coming into that collaboration with a letterer, did it affect how you went about designing your page for the webcomic?
Yes, it did. I had a bad habit of not leaving enough space for letters. It made me realize, like, okay, I need to learn how to lay out a page to where like the letterer would have a space, and they'd have an opportunity to be creative, because I really didn't leave. And once I was done drawing, I took up all the space as much as I could. And I was, after like discussing with my letterer, like, okay, she told me that it was really hard for her to like put where the bubbles were and stuff. And then I was like, oh, okay, I see what I've been doing. I've literally just been painting, really. I haven't been storytelling. So I had to like lay out where, there might be space to, put letters. And I believe it later on helped with the readability and flow of the comic. If you take a look at the earlier episodes and pages, you'll see that it was a struggle for the letterer to put, where would they put these things? So yeah, it makes a difference. And just knowing that's the next step that's supposed to happen.
Yeah. I was just recently finished reading Mr. Miracle by the Tom King run, which is fantastic. But I was looking at the art, and everything was 9 grids throughout the whole book. So like 9 panels per page on every page. And
yes, I read so that one too.
Oh my God, I felt so bad for the letterer. I was like,
yes, like I did. I was like, it was an amazing concept to like do 9 panels, but a lot of the work felt like, okay, it felt like it was the artist, but it felt like, the letterer just had to cram some stuff in there. Like I noticed that. Yeah, I noticed that the font was slightly smaller than usual. I don't know if it was just me. I didn't really compare it to
Mitch. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. The artist Mitch Gerard or whatever. Oh my gosh, his art is fantastic. And like the 9 panel grids throughout the whole book, I was like, that's almost sadistic. Oh my God. that was it was so well done though, but cheese and crackers, that's a lot to cram onto a page if you're not careful. Like you really have to be running on all cylinders to be able to accomplish that with
that's
with
why it's like, occasionally I go into the writer's critique forum, the critique not forum, but what do you call it, channel, and I sometimes I pretty much click on the different scripts just to count how many panels these guys have. And if it just so happens to have 9 panels and a lot of dialogue, that's when I'll start critiquing. I'm like, as an artist, you need to either one, get rid of some of the dialogue or get rid of some panels. Yeah, like I had my first freak out on the Batman comic. I was going through every single like community.
Oh, yeah.
Asking, okay, how do I draw this?
We used to only allow for the Comic Jam in particular. We only allowed 4 panels per page at first, which was like pulling teeth trying to write a script with just 4 panels, especially if it was like a headier concept for the theme, which it was a struggle. So I started going like, okay, let's, maybe we can up it to 6 panels per page. But I've really tried to be strong on like, okay, we're working on getting there to be able to do whatever we want to on the page, but let's try to stick to 6 panels. I don't want people pulling their hair out.
But honestly, it was a good learning experience. I don't remember how many panels it was, but I think after that, the Disney Princess one ended up being even more panels, I believe. Yeah. But I was like,
you did so amazing.
I was like, okay, all right, I'll just draw it. But I had to draw it in a way where it's like, okay, this is not getting backgrounds.
Well,
so unfortunately, like, I feel like the more you add panels is the more like it. I feel like you have to sacrifice like getting to know the character up close, because it's important. Like when I see a page that I connect with a face. So if all the characters are like small and tiny and I don't see a close up somewhere, it's like, okay, it's like I'm reading a Sunday morning comic strip or Sunday comic strip from like the olden times.
Yeah. Well,
so yeah,
Tiffany,
I mean, I'm pretty sure someone out there has done a better job of handling it, but it's just hard for me to connect with stories like that.
And so coming back to the Crystal Visions comic, you're collaborating with another writer, and I guess, do you both kind of lay out the outline for the story, or have you just kind of ceded that job completely over to her?
It is both. It is both of us. Since it originally started as my concept, but she's done a lot of things to help make the world what it is. So, and plus I also want her to also have like some creativity input, because like a collaboration while I'm like trying to be like an epic dictator is not going to work, even if it is my idea. So like when you're sharing an idea with someone, you literally share it like you're handing over something to them as like, a gift. And once you hand over a gift, that person can do whatever they want with it. So we pretty much collaborate together. We, sometimes I lay out what I want to happen in the story, but sometimes she has like a significantly better idea. And it's like, okay, let's do that. That sounds so cool. And it just, that's how our sessions usually go. And
it's awesome.
Yeah. Because we both have day jobs that we both have like careers and stuff that we also feel very passionate about. We kind of go at it in a way that's very casual. So there's no like severe deadline.
I was about to get into that. Like,
yeah.
How are you able to be a parent and oh my gosh, you can.
She's so cute.
So talking about being a parent. Hold on 1 second. Olin, baby. Keep it down, and she said no. How are you able to work the comics thing into your life while you have so many other things going on? Is there do you just do it when you can, or do you set aside time each day to get stuff done?
In the beginning, when I first had my son and my family was brand new, it was very, very, very hard, because I was used to having like time blocks that I could schedule to do these things. And I started little by little. So first I decided, okay, whenever whatever like 10 minutes that I had, I was gonna do something. So I would use whatever time that I had to do something. And as like my son got older, it became easier to train him or let him know that when I'm doing this thing right now, that is what I'm doing. And it's easy now. It's easy to distract him because I have technology and TV, right? So like, here, TV. This is it.
She was, speaking of, she was watching Teen Titans Go, the movie, earlier, and I guess it went off or something because that thing has been. I've only seen the first 10 minutes of that movie because
you should watch the rest of it. There is a Michael Bolton song.
We have seen that.
Should not be missed.
You know, like your kid has like a favorite movie or something, and they've watched it so many times, but you put it on to let them see it while you do other stuff.
Yeah.
And so I've just seen like bits and pieces, but the inspirational song, my wife and I were in the room when that came on, and she said, "Is Bolton?" Immediately we both pulled our phones out like, "Oh yeah, that is Michael Bolton. Holy cow."
Yeah. I've seen the movie. Like, unfortunately, like I can let my son play games. There's some movies and shows that he'll watch, but there's certain movies where he wants me to just sit there and watch it with him. You have no idea. I've lost count how many times I've seen the Lego Batman movie.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. But anyway, going back to like how I schedule everything. Recently, how I've been doing stuff is like more recently now that I have like a new job that I'm trying to get used to. I've kind of like shifted everything into the morning. I wake up a lot earlier than I normally would. I get to work early, like maybe like about 30 or sometimes 45 minutes early before work actually starts. And I start drawing then. And then I go to work. And then I just come home and I do absolutely nothing. Either I crash or I do a little bit more. That's how I've approached things. It helped back in the beginning when I was just starting out with the family and everything to attempt to draw as fast as I can. If you've noticed the beginning of the comic, that the style was designed so that I could draw it very, very fast. I didn't really focus too much on the line. I put a lot of effort into color. But in more recent pages, which hasn't been uploaded yet, I've taken time to sit down and focus on like drawing more character expressions and focused a lot on putting in more detail. So awesome. Everything that I've done in the comic so far was intentional based on the amount of time that I could put into it.
And I mean, that just goes to show that, I mean, for some people, it's something they do because they're bored. They just want to do it. But you really have to be passionate about it to maintain a story. And with that's one of the reasons I wanted to kind of start this little segment for the Spoiler Country podcast, is that people don't really get their due when it comes to webcomics, because there's so many people who are passionate about what they do, about their stories, and about putting out their pages and getting those uploaded, but nobody talks about them as much. So I'm hoping to kind of shed a light on these creators, and that being so, Tiffany, thank you so much for talking to me about this.
Yeah, great. I had a great time talking with you too. Yeah, if you ever need a co-host, let me know.
I'll hit you up. Can you tell people on the Spoiler Country podcast where to find your comic?
Okay, you can find my comic on Webtoons. Just search Crystal Visions, and you can also find it at crystalvisionscomic.com.
Awesome. So you guys get on to Crystal Visions at Webtoons or at crystalvisionscomic.com. And what's your social media?
My social media is Instagram. You can find me on Instagram at TR Prime, or on Twitter at Tiffany MacLeod. Well, forget Twitter because I don't even know what symbol I use in that handle. I'm Tiffany MacLeod on Twitter, and you look for the painting-looking icon.
Somebody asked me about my Twitter the other day in reference to comics, and I was like, "Don't." It's just me yelling at politicians. Like,
yeah.
Don't. But Tiffany, thank you again for. Oh my goodness. I'm talking to my friend Tiffany. I'm Tiffany. I'm gonna go ahead and
wow, you're gonna have a time editing this.
Yeah. All right.
Hi.
Say hey to Tiffany, Holland.
Hey, Tiffany. Hi, Holland.
All right, Tiffany, you have a good day, okay?
All right. Okay, you too. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thank you for coming on.
And that's a show, man. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Casey, for talking with Tiffany, and Tiffany for coming on and talking with Casey. Thank you for Michael for coming on and talking with Kenric. Thank you, everybody who's listening. As always, we are Spoiler Country. You can hear us everywhere podcasts are heard. Every podcatcher, just type us in, you'll find us. We are on all the social medias. We are on the Twitters, the Instagrams, the Facebooks, all of them. Just search for Spoiler Country. If you want to contact us, you can email us at spoilercountry@gmail.com. You can catch out our website at scpod.net. You can leave us a voicemail at 707-656-2080. Again, 707-656-2080. And, you know, as we always say at the end of every episode, open your mind and read more.